Hey all, you're looking for a fun and easy way to make an iron farm early on in your Minecraft run? Got something for you here. Now, you're not going to need any mine carts, you're not going to need any rails, you're not going to need any boats. All you need is a village and a strip of land that goes out about 120 blocks away from the village. And you can build yourself this super easy iron farm. All you really need is slabs, some glass, a couple buckets of lava or so, and some signs. That's basically it. There's not a lot to do. You need a little bit of iron. You can see here we did a lot of iron for these, but you don't need all of those to do this. You can actually, and I'll show you later, how we can build this without using anything except for 2 hoppers, basically. You'll just need 2 of them. But we did this a little bit different for the example one. You can see we're already getting some iron in there. I've been cleaning the iron out regularly. So the first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to trap some villagers. I like to make holes in front of their houses. And then, well, let's let a guy in here so that I can show you what happens. They'll usually trap themselves. You wait until they go into a house, and then you're sure to dig out a 2-block deep hole. They'll eventually just walk into it. Now they can't get out. You're going to want to make sure that you cover them up to keep them safe. You never know what's going to happen around here. So I usually like to cover them up with some blocks, and then I'll usually put a trapdoor right there. You can see I've already trapped one here. I wasn't even trying to get this guy, but he went in. Don't get these green guys. These guys are nitwits. They will never get a profession and therefore are useless to us in an iron farm. So if you see them, you know what to do. If they get in your little hole here, just smother them. You know, that's the way to do it. So keep these guys safe. Every once in a while, you'll probably have to help one of them get into the groove here. So once you have 3 of them, that's all you're going to need. Another thing that you can do is if you don't want to go ahead and dig holes in front of everybody's doors, you can just dig a trench down the middle of the village, and I'll show you how to do that, because they will volunteer themselves. They'll just come right into this ditch if you dig it long enough. Go straight through the village. Usually I like to do it perpendicular to the line that I'm going to make, sending them out, and then you'll end up with 3 of them for sure. Once you've got 3 of these guys in here, look at that, farmer just jumps right in. Once you've got 3 of them in here, you're going to need to go around and break all of their workstations. So any of the forges, any of the, what do they call those? Composters. You're going to want to break all of those around here so that they do not have an occupation, because when they don't have an occupation, they're very easy to manipulate and send far, far away. Sometimes you'll have to help these guys out too to get in the ditch. Get in the ditch. Once you've got 3, again, not counting that green shirt guy, we're going to have to smother him later. Once you have them, you're going to want to start building your trench all the way out. And like I said, I usually dig about 120 out, sometimes 140 out. You want to be far enough away from this village that when you create your little iron farm, it's going to make its own village center. It's not going to rely on the village center in this one, which means you need to be relatively far away. You can look up the exact numbers. I just do it at about 120 because it seems to be where it works. 120 meaning that's as far as I dig the trench, and then from there you actually still have to dig like a little place for them to hang out, and then put the iron farm a little further out. So by the time you do that, you're far enough away. Again, you cannot be close to another village center because you're essentially making a small village yourself. Once you have 3 villagers with an occupation, it will create its own village center. So what I like to do to mark this out is I usually will put like 1 wood block every other block. That way it's easier to count, because sometimes visually it can be very difficult to count. Plus we're going to need, in our world here, I can only dig, well, I can dig 3 down, but I only dug 2 down. So I'm actually going to build up to make sure that we have enough space above the villager's head. You're going to want your trench to be 3 blocks deep and probably covered, just again to be safe. I dug this 2 blocks deep because you'll see in a second, I'm going to make sure that we fill in, see right here, all of these. Now I did this in creative, but you can do this in survival. I've done it in survival. I've done it in hardcore. It's really not that hard. So I'm going to make my pit even deeper here just to be sure. So what you do is you make 1 step up here and then a hole for them to fall into. Once they fall into this hole, they can no longer backtrack. So they'll fall in and then they just cannot go backwards. So, and I'll show you how to get them to go over these in a second, because once you've got all these kind of spread out a little bit, it's sort of like making sure they only can flow in the one direction. Now I've got these walls on the sides here. Actually, let's dig out this is the end part. I'm going to put some beds down the very end of here. Beds and workstations are what attract villagers when they don't have one of either. So we're going to make sure that these villagers have no beds in their village and they have no workstations in their village, at least none close to them. Then we're going to put 4 of those down here. Now this is too far away to attract them, so we're going to need to put some workstations and beds along the way to entice them to come with us. Now I'm putting these trapdoors over here, but I would suggest instead doing these slabs. It's probably better. I don't know why I went with the trapdoors. I think it was because it's easier to get in and out, because you do always want to leave at least one that you can put a trapdoor in, because you're going to need to get in and out without the villagers being able to escape. One of the ways I do it is using a ladder. You can put a ladder that does not touch the ground. That way you can just jump and dig yourself out and they can't get out. So many times I've tried to do it other ways and the villagers have escaped. All right, let's come here. We'll break all their composters. And now, hi guys, we're going to want them to come down to this area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a small little house for them, which is essentially going to be 1 bed and 1 workstation. I use composters. They're the easiest to steal. They're the easiest to find. They're the easiest to make, in my opinion. Plus, I don't know. I just think farmers tend to fall for this a little more than the other guys do. It's not true, but I just like to feel that way. So if I put a composter here, what's going to happen? See, this guy is already raring to go. He's already ready. Now he can't get over because I stupidly put these trapdoors above his head. But once I get rid of these, he can come right over and he'll pop right down into the next area. We got to make sure they've got enough space. There they go. So you're going to do this. And then once you've got them over that hump, you're going to put the next one in and break the old one that you had. So now they no longer have the old one to rely on. They're going to start coming this way looking for this new one. Sometimes they get a little fussy, so you'll have to do a little pushing. Eventually what you'll do is when they get close enough to that room, you see it's probably doesn't even have to be that close. As long as you get them over this last one and you take this away, they will then start heading by themselves all the way to the beds and composters at the very end. It's that easy, essentially, to get villagers to go where you want them to go. You don't need boats. You don't need any sort of rail system. You can just lead them yourself. It's super easy. Then once you've got them on this building, you're going to build a 3-deep trench. And this is where we're going to attract our zombies to. Remember, you just want zombies. You don't want skeletons. You don't want creepers. So you're going to have to be a bit more vigilant. Again, I did this in creative with spawns off. You're going to be doing this with live monsters. So it's a little bit more difficult. I have done it. It's not as hard as it sounds. The zombies will naturally be attracted to this building. So once they fall in here, you're going to have yourself basically a horde of zombies in here to work with. You're only going to need 1 to 3 of them. The rest of them you can kill off. Make sure that you cover it so they don't burn up during the day. Now, this may look like a lot more work, but it really isn't. It's actually quite easy to do this. Let me show you the basic setup. You can see where we have the area that the iron golems are going to spawn in. I make it out of glass because they can't spawn on glass. Everything else has to be made. The top sides need to be made out of bottom level slabs, which means they need to be slabs that are on the bottom of the block, not on the top of the block. A top slab is going to count just like a block and things can spawn on it. So even the stairs I make out of these bottom slabs, if you don't know how to make a bottom slab, I'll show you a little bit later. But this is the stairs that the villagers came up and then they just walked over here and they went to their beds. Again, I broke their beds in that building and I made sure they only had beds and workstations up here inside of this area. So they naturally just went up here. The zombies are the same thing. Once the villagers are safe, make sure they're absolutely safe. You can then lead the zombies up there. The zombies will just chase after the villagers. They do it themselves automatically. You let them do what they want to do. Now you're going to make sure that they have workstations and beds with enough space for them to stand on top of the workstation and on top of the bed. Here is what the construction looks like. You're going to have a 9x7 or 7x9, however you want to say it, floor for the villagers and the zombies. And then you're going to have around it a 2x2 walkway that you can stand on the outside. This is where we're going to keep them housed. That way we can make sure that these iron golems spawn on top. This is the collection system. I'm going to show you how to do this without all of those. You're going to be able to do it with just stone and some water and maybe 2 of those hoppers. So you're going to want to build a 1x1 racetrack around the outside. These are all bottom slabs. I know it looks like a top slab, but these are bottom slabs. So nothing can spawn on them while we're building. It's really not that important during the day if you're building during the day, but if you're building at night or if you're building, where you've already got the villagers up here, I'm going to make sure that these are always going to be bottom slabs. So build your little raceway around the outside. You're also going to want to put your beds down. Make sure that your beds are floating. If you look at the floor, you'll see there's space between the floor and the bed. That means you've done it right. If the bed is sitting exactly on the floor, then you've done it wrong. You have top slabs. Not a good idea. So we're going to make sure we have enough height on our ceiling that a villager can stand on one of those composters and not hit their head. So this is where you're going to want to put in your bottom slabs for the roof of this building. This is going to cover everything, including the zombie raceway. You could cover it all the way out if you want, including your little walkway that you're going to have to walk around the outside. But personally, I just make sure that there's enough on top to cover the villagers and, of course, the zombies. Zombies will burn if you don't. Make a hole for you to get in and out. You can put a trapdoor here. You can also make a ladder to go up. Again, that 2-step ladder where the bottom rung is not there, so you can jump up. All right. The goal in this is to make a peekaboo system so that the villagers do not always see the zombies, but at sometimes will see the zombies. A lot of people, they'll go through all this stuff making these trapdoors that flip open and close, open and close, open and close. Well, guess what? Zombies move by themselves. They can naturally do this for you. You don't have to build any mechanisms for it. It's pretty easy to do. If you look how we have it here, it's set up so that every time the zombie moves around, they're in a different spot where either the villager can see them or the villager cannot see them. We do this by making spaces that are available in between. Now you can experiment with it, but the best method that I've seen, I'll show you once we get all this set up, you'll see exactly how we have it set up so that it's spread out. I like to make sure that they can sleep without being seen and that they can work for a second without being seen. So a lot of times we're going to want to make sure that we block off their workstation or their beds, depending on how you want to do it. But always make sure that there's a spot the zombie can peek through. You want less spots they can see through than spots that they can't see through. So we want to have mostly everything covered with just a few spots here and there that the zombie can peek at. So in fact, I usually close off one side entirely. That way, if the zombies kind of do move around to the back, they give the villagers a little bit of a break. Now, you're going to have to make sure that there's these air moats that are in between so that the zombies can't walk through. So we got to make sure that zombies can't reach through and hit the villagers. Otherwise, you're going to end up with one villager is going to turn into a zombie villager. Then they're going to kill the rest of your villagers. This is going to happen to you at least once or twice when you're doing this, practicing. Don't freak out about it. You can just grab some more villagers from the village. If everything goes wrong, you just go to a new village and start again. As much of a pain as it is. All right. So you can see we now have the structure built. This is where we would normally go do our collection. So how are we going to collect what we have over here? What I usually like to do is take a couple of blocks just so that you can start setting up the hoppers and the chests. So I will set up a hopper facing so that it's pointing into a block or into 2 blocks if you want, 1 or 2. This one is pointing into a block with 1 hopper on top pointing down. You don't even have to have that downward hopper if you don't want. You can just quite literally have the 1 hopper. I did it with 2 just so that I can give myself a little bit of space. Then you're going to build your platform. Your platform needs to be, in this case, it needs to be 9 long. So it's going to be, well, 8 long on the top, 9 counting this part over here. So the top part that you see is 8 long. This bottom part I'm building in now is the 9th block from the front to the back. This is going to make sure that when the water flows, it only flows to that edge. And then it's going to drop off any sort of materials or any sort of, what do you call them there? The iron golems. It's going to push them all the way to that edge. So as we're building this, I'll show you what we're going to do just to make sure. You see the water goes all the way from the back right up to the edge and pushes everything down there. Then you're going to have 1 thing of water pushing that way. You're still going to be able to build your natural system where the iron golems are going to bump their heads into the lava. You're going to want to make sure that it is 2 blocks up. So 2 free blocks below and then the lava system right above it. I will take you back over there to take a look in a second. So you can see in here that our villagers are quite comfortable the way that they are right now. Now, every once in a while, they will kind of run over each other while they're sleeping, and one will get their head bumped into a block and they'll actually end up dying. So that can be a bit of a mess, but it doesn't happen super often. But notice how the villagers scatter for a little bit. That guy, see how he's still resting there? He doesn't know anything's wrong. That's what you want to see. You want to see at least one of them be able to rest for a little bit, but they all need to be able to get up. They all need to be able to work, and they all need to be able to rest. So they need to be able to stand on things. They need to be able to rest, and they need to be able to have access to their little composter here. You'll notice when you do it right, you'll see the little green sparkles will happen when you set it up. That lets you know that they can work. You might not see the green sparkles every time, but if you do see them, you know you've definitely done it right. But you got to be careful. Like I said, you see how they're pushing each other's heads into things here. Sometimes that can be a little bit dangerous, but that's how that works. Okay, let me show you what we do as far as killing the iron golems. We're going to set up a system that's going to push them down to here, and you can see that we have these signs on the bottom, which is 1 block up from the ground, and they're on right on the glass wall. And then we have these vertical ones that are a block higher than that, and they are facing kind of horizontal as far as that goes. All right, so drop some iron golems in here. They're going to slide down. They're going to hit that lava, and they are going to get destroyed. And then their materials that they're going to drop, the roses and the iron bars, are going to drop into there, and you'll see them flowing right into those hoppers. And those hoppers will then bring it all the way into this chest for you. This is the easiest way that I found to do it. Of course, you can mess around with this any way that you want. This is not like super optimized, but as you can see, if you can just get 4 of them to spawn, then you're going to end up with, 34 iron, which is more than you're going to have. Plus, you can walk away from this and do some other things. Not if it's not at spawn, but if you stay close, you can kind of do some other things, and then you're going to be able to get your iron from there. We got 47 while we were just messing around. As far as how high this needs to be off the ground, you're going to want it to be 8 blocks off the ground. And you can see here, I'll make the slabs go up so that we can count it out. Oop. That way you can see I go 8 blocks up, and then the 9th block is where we build on the bottom part. That gets it high enough off the ground where the golems should not be spawning underneath your system. One other word of warning that I'm going to get into is sometimes you will run into a situation where no iron golems are spawning, and you're wondering what the heck is going on. Now, we haven't spawned a golem in a little while, and looking around here, I don't see any activity. Let's go take a look and see what's happening here. So what's happened is all of the zombies have kind of gotten into a state where they're not moving. You can't even see the other 2 zombies. You can see that one zombie that's there. The other 2 are hiding in the, there they are in that corner. So they're kind of congregating down there. They're not moving. Once the villagers get up and move around, the zombies will get up and move around as well. But right now, the zombies are kind of just not really figuring out what they want to do. There's a few ways to solve this. Usually you can just break one of these slabs just so that very quickly they'll visually make one of the villagers wake up, which will cause the rest of them to panic. The zombies will then start to fly around like chickens, and then you'll basically get the whole thing going. I'll show you what'll happen. We're just going to simulate it by looking for a spot to put a zombie in. Let me grab a zombie egg from our friend Bob over here. Let me just grab one. Bob, thank you. And let me see. I gotta be real careful. I don't want to spawn one inside here. But if we spawn a zombie that's near enough that they can see it. He kind of fell between the holes there. There he goes. All right. Now look, as soon as he's up, all the villagers will start moving around, and then you're back into business again. Your golems will start to spawn, and you will be getting some more iron as far as that goes. So you might have to go in and do a little bit of agitation. Just be very careful, because if you break the wrong blocks or if you do the wrong thing, you're going to let the zombies in. You're going to have to start all over again. Anyway, you can mess around with this as much as you want. There's a lot of different configurations. I am not claiming that this is a very efficient model. All I'm telling you is that this is a very easy way that you can build without having to have all the bells and whistles already in place. You don't have to do a ton of mining early on to get the iron. You don't need rails. You don't need boats. You don't need a lot. You can get this set up, and it's a fun thing to do too. It's actually really fun to build this one. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Go ahead, leave me some likes and some comments and all that other stuff. Don't forget to subscribe, and I gotta go. So hey, YouTube, you're up.
Lord.